Hey everybody, welcome to third edition of the Freedom Frequency. As advertised, we're going to be going through the Constitution, going over it line by line, really just talking about what every piece of it means, just so you have seen it and understand what it's really doing. So before I get started, I'm going to add a couple things to the chat. Oh no. Okay, I can't have it open. It's I put together this thing a while back. Brian, I think you've seen it, but you know, when I first went through the Constitution and kind of understood a little bit more about what our rights are and how they kind of operate and how they work, you know, I watched some videos by Carl Miller that you know, outline how and what you need to do to really be able to defend your rights and how to, you know, what the process is. So this spreadsheet here, it's a, I guess let's go ahead and open it, share the screen. I'm not going to go over this too much tonight. I just wanted to make it available. So you guys watching this, I'll put it up on Telegram, and if you're on Facebook, hit me up. I'll share it with you. Okay, so again, I'm not going to outline it too much, but here, you know, in the red box here, I basically tried to highlight what your rights are specifically outlined in the Constitution and Supreme Court cases that identify specific rights. So on the left here, I kind of got the case or the source. And so you know, that's where you can go look it up. I've copied it, a brief description in the middle. There are a lot of errors on here. I'm going to forewarn you. I'm not going to highlight them, but you know, you should be able to go through this and maybe find them. You know, look up what some of these cases are and look up some of this stuff and see what it is I'm talking about. So here, you know, again, these are all the rights that I think are important for folks to know. So, you know, you got to understand them, you got to know them. And then here are cases where those rights were used to win and win arguments. And you know, some of these cases are just really major, and they a lot of the cases you'll notice here, all these things here, they're case numbers. So you know, this 13 US 105, I think this is the volume in the page, or vice versa, but whatever it is, you type in those numbers, or you type in Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, Google, there's a bunch of ways to find them. You know, and if you're really going to come down to using them, you want to make sure you get the original case and just know that the merits of what actually happened. You know, because those cases get used over and over for different cases, and anyway, you can but anyway, yeah, so this is where you would take your right and be able to protect it, like make the argument. Then here in purple, some super interesting, same idea, same cases, descriptions. These are basically the duties of the courts and the punishments for all elected officers that have oaths of office or have an oath to the Constitution. So, you know, and there's something called the color of law, that, you know, a state government can create a statute that is completely unconstitutional. And until somebody questions it, until somebody raises it up to the Supreme Court or the federal courts, it'll go on forever as just being another law. So, you know, that's kind of the energy I'm bringing here, you know, wanting to make sure we see what the Constitution is, what it says, and, you know, recognize that, you know, we are the people, we're the ones that created it. It is our duty to, you know, support our rights. And it's not just your rights, it's the rights of your brothers and sisters, other people, you know, because one individual you losing a right is a deprivation of rights for all of us. So all right, that's that. Again, get at me if you want me to send it to you, if you don't have Telegram. Okay, so the Constitution, this is a straight copy of from the internet. Right up here is the website, just so you can get what I have put here. I'm I don't have the chat up. Well, anyway, if you want this, I'll put it on Telegram too. But yeah, it's straight copy from that page. So to just jump forward, here's, we the people's outstart. So the thing about the Constitution that's not really directly expressed in here is what it really is. Now, when we read this and we go over these different articles, we'll see that it outlines and lays out the operation of the federal government, the operation of Congress, how the Supreme Court is supposed to operate, and what the powers of the executive branch are. It goes over powers that are within the federal government and ones that are reserved for the states. And it does go over what individual rights are expressly protected by the Constitution. And the critical thing I want to really get across here is that we, the people, created it. We wrote it. We made it. Okay. And by way of this Constitution, we made the federal government. Now, what was created was a trust. Okay. We, the people, the sovereign people of the Union States, of the nation of this land, the people have the right and the power to self-govern. And instead of just running around, building little governments and whatnot and trying to govern ourselves, the founding fathers and the energy back then was very aware of coming together as states and creating a whole nation. And I think you can see this right in the very opening paragraph here. I'll just go ahead and read it to you. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That, in the simplest terms, is what we created. Okay. Now, recognizing that it's a trust, and we had the power, we are the grantor. We put the thing in, we put our rights into it, our ability to govern ourselves into it. We gave that power over to our elected representatives. And those elected representatives are the trustee. The government is the trustee of this trust. And the beneficiary is the public. It is us, the people. So we gave in our rights, created this organized government here for a government to provide these things: general welfare, defense, services, justice, for the betterment of our use, for our beneficial use. So the real point there too is that every living soul is direct party to this document. And one other thing I want to add, since it is a contract, we the people and the government are the two parties. In any contract, you're obligated to know the terms of that contract you're party to. Going to the other party to ask them what your rights are to that contract is not a good thing. They don't have any obligation really to inform you of what your perks and benefits are of the contract. In fact, they're probably going to do what they can to maybe subvert or convince you or act as if you don't have that ability. It happens in business contracts all the time. So just recognize that relationship. So, okay, moving on. I just, I added some definitions here, just words that jumped out at me that I didn't readily understand. So when it says here, the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, that's our offspring and our future generations. So that's us, that's everybody, Yeah. All right, Article 1. So this is Article 1, I believe, establishes the operation of Congress. So all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. So just to be clear, legislative belonging to the branch of government that is charged with such powers as making laws, levying and collecting taxes, and making financial appropriations. And I guess these are the only couple ones I actually put the link to where I got it, but they're all from Webster. So again, Congress, the Senate, House of Representatives, they make the laws. They levy and collect taxes and make financial appropriations for the betterment of the union. Oops. All right. Section 2, the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of most numerous branch of the state legislature. Now, I read that a bunch of times and was having a heck of a time to try to understand exactly what it's saying. But in my voice, you know, there is a House of Representatives. They have to be chosen, you know, every 2 years. And the people, the way they are elected by the state has to be in the same fashion that the state legislators are elected in their state. So what that means is that the qualifications for you to vote in one state for now you're those state representatives, but people in Congress could be completely different in another state, and how those members of Congress get in. And this is what I believe sparked the other amendments. I think the 14th Amendment, which makes sure that everybody has the right to vote. That you know, there is no discrimination to the voting process. So, all right, no person shall be a representative who should not have attained the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. All right, there's a lot of backwards talk there, but in order to be voted into the House Representative, you have to be at least 25, be a citizen for 7 years, and you do have to be an inhabitant of the state. So, okay, representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to serve for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. Now, that's a pretty big sentence in this. What it's really saying is that the representatives of each area from each state are to be counted, or the votes are to be counted, and that every free person gets a whole vote. And excluding Indians that are not taxed, and then 3/5 of all persons. So this is all persons is what at the time were slaves. So anyway, that's the Constitution. That's part of it. So the actual enumeration, the counting, shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall be law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000. So there has to be 1 representative for 30,000 population, but each state shall have at least 1 representative. And until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire. So it tells you that which states have representatives here when they started, when the Constitution was written. So these were the states that were there. So this provides a mechanism for, as states grow, as the population grow, the number of their representatives will grow. And so there will be a direct representation of 1 individual in DC, the House of Representatives, for every 30,000 inhabitants in that area. And so I believe every 10 years, they effectively recount those numbers to establish new numbers of representatives. Oops, all right. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. So the president can force or create an election for any seat that is vacant. The House of Representatives shall choose their own speaker, and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. So they're the ones that have the power to actually impeach the president. Okay, section 3 is the Senate. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. So right there. Each state has 2 senators and they serve a term of 6 years. Immediately after they are assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as many be in 3 classes. So this basically says that they're going to do, every 2 years, there's going to be a new class of senators. So yeah, so they serve a 6-year term, but it's divided up so that every 2 years they get rotated. And same thing with vacancies. It's can be done during, by the House during legislative process, and if it's during a recess, the president can fill the vacancy. All right, here's the age and citizenship requirement. Got to be inhabitant of the state. All right, the vice president of the United States shall be president of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. So this is just a fascinating part of the Constitution. There is a body of the Senate, and the vice president acts as president. I mean, what the heck does that mean? But he doesn't get to vote unless there's a tie. So the Senate shall choose their other officers and also a president pro tempore, which is for the time being, in the absence of the vice president, or when shall exercise the office of president of the United States. Okay, the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachment. So the House of Representatives impeaches, the Senate puts them on trial. So when sitting for that purpose, they shall be on an oath of affirmation. What is an oath of affirmation? I'm just going to look that up earlier.
Oath or affirmation.
Oh, there you go. See, me speed reading again.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Okay, justice shall preside and no. All right, did I skip something here? No, I already said it. The Senate shall be the okay, impeach. The Chief Justice shall preside. So in an impeachment, the Chief Justice holds a trial, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members of present. So in the Senate, 100 people, representatives, got to get a 2/3 vote to impeach. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to remove one from office, and disqualification to hold future offices. So once they're impeached, they're out, and they can't hold an office again. Trust of honor, office of honor, office of trust, office of profit in the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, punishment according to law. So there would be a separate trial for any possible criminal cases. Section 4. All right, the times, place, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. So that was big right there. So how the Congress is elected, what method they're elected in, both the representatives and the senators, is up to each state. A state gets to choose how it's done. But Congress still has the opportunity to change by law and alter those regulations. So this is exactly what allowed the amendment, or not even allowed the amendment, but an example where states were enacting voting laws that were infringing constitutional rights or discriminating from all people. And so, the amendments were enacted and passed, so it gave everybody the equal access to place their vote, to participate. Congress shall assemble at least once a year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday of December, unless they shall be by law appoint a different day. So first Monday of every December, Congress is open. Section 5, each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a small number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. So in order to do business, there has to be a majority. in each house, the Senate and the House of Representatives. So so to do all business, there has to be a quorum. That's a majority. But a smaller number can adjourn from a day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. So Congress can come together even if they don't have a majority and get together and compel the attendance of other members for a meeting. You know, first Monday in December is always session, but they can get together and call other sessions. Each house may determine their own rules of proceedings and punish those members for disorderly behavior. And again, 2/3 required to expel members. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings and from time to time publish the same, accepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house or any question at all to desire of 1/5 of those present be entered to the journal. Wow. So the proceedings are kept in the journal. Everything that's discussed in the Congress, and they are published from time to time. But if they require secrecy, they can be hidden. The yeas and nays are recorded with their names of who voted, and at the desire of if 1/5, let's see, members of the House on any occasion shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Okay, so so if there's any questions or I think kind of rebuttals to things that are passed, if there's at least 1/5 that are present there, they can enter their, I guess, disagreement. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of others, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than to which the two houses shall be sitting. Yeah, so they can adjourn for more than 3 days if they're in a long session, and the sessions go super long. All right, section 6. So again, this first article, just talking about how Congress operates, the folks that make the laws. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation of their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. So they get paid for their services. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses. Interesting, because they can do whatever they want, except for treason, criminal felony, or breach of peace. And in going to and returning from the same. And for the speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. That's powerful. So the only way to really
and I'm not sure, back when we formed our country, wasn't it a voluntary service versus being paid? I don't know.
No, I mean they got paid. I mean, senators. This is there are. Let me think. I know that like taxes were more voluntary with the corporations, and like giving your money was certainly voluntary back then, but I mean, I don't think this has been changed. So
okay.
Yeah, but it was too. If you gotta think about like, the state of Georgia or whatever, he's got to come up to Washington D.C. and work and do this stuff. So, I guess compensated for those efforts, back then, now they got to get compensated for their jets and their yachts they got to take to Congress. But yeah, so while they're traveling there and while they're there, they have immunity, except for treason, felony, and breach of peace. Which is funny because today I just saw AOC, what's her name, get arrested for protesting. That was weird.
I don't
All right.
know if she was really arrested, but okay.
Well, but I mean, that's what, I mean,
Know if she was really arrested, but okay.
well, but I mean, definitely it makes it throw into question too, like, I thought you couldn't get arrested. All right. No senator or representative shall, during the time of which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall be created and or emoluments, returns, so profits or yeah, good things from being in office, where shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuous office. So if you're the governor and you get voted in as senator, you got to not be governor anymore or any other civil office. All right, all bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. So right here, the House of Representatives is the purse. They're the ones that vote on, raising money. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approves, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to that house in which it shall have originated. Who shall enter the objections of the president at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. So they vote on something and pass it to the president. He rejects it. He's going to say why he rejected it. And they get to reconsider what the bill with his comments. If after such reconsideration, 2/3 of the House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of the House, it shall become a law. Honestly, I never knew that until I read this today. Whenever Congress passes a bill, it goes to the president. And if he passes it, it's law. If he rejects it or sends it back, Congress can still pass it if they have a higher majority. Interesting. So obviously having the president with your political alignment, a lot easier to get things passed. All right, but in all such cases, the votes for both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each house respectively. If any bill shall be returned by the president within 10 days, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be law. So effectively, the president has 10 days to reject anything. In like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevents its return, in which case it shall not be law. So while they're in session, the president has 10 days. If they adjourn before those 10 days, then he can give it back to them when they come back. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules of limitations prescribed in the case of the bill. So there you go. Congress has to pass it up with the majority, and the president's got to agree. If the president doesn't agree, they got to pass it by 2/3, or they got to make the changes he wants. So clearly the president, he's got a lot of power. He can do a lot of stuff. All right, section 8. Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. So Congress can impose taxes on the states. I guess it doesn't say who. They can just impose taxes. I don't know if it means it's probably just on the states. I'm not sure they can impose them directly to people. But again, when you see the states in here, I'll show it to you in the 10th Amendment. Whenever the Constitution talks about the states, he's talking about you, all right, the people. All right, recognize that the Constitution we made was just for the federal government. The state government is supposed to be totally organic, created by the people. It's however we want it to really be. So it doesn't function that way, and it wasn't created that way. But that's the energy that the Constitution is written with. That when it's saying the states can do something, it's not saying just the state government. It is saying the state government, but it's not talking about just a government entity. It's talking about the people and however they've chosen to govern themselves in their individual state. And I can go into a lot more about why that's not the case, but that's not the subject for today. So, all right, back to Section 8. Congress has the right to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Credit of the United States. What is the credit of the United States?
The people.
Yeah, I agree. Is that what it was back then?
Yeah.
Who knows? You know, what constitutes that credit? I would think gold would be part of it. Okay, they can regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. So this clause right here is what gives the federal government the capacity to regulate commerce that happens between states. And you start to think about that, it's almost every business. Every act of commerce touches another state to some degree, whether you're buying or selling something or whatever, you know, and that gives the federal government rights to get involved and put taxes on you, do whatever. And I think there's a lot of energy to spread it out, you know. In a world of globalization, everything is controlled by the federal government. All right. To establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws of the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. So the Congress has the power to establish rules of naturalization, uniform laws on bankruptcies. They can have the power to coin money. So they have the power to make money, regulate the value of that money and a foreign coin, and fix the standard and weights of measures. So I don't know how many standard weights and measures we've been using lately, but the Congress has the power to create coin money. And that's the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. Securities, what's the security? We're not going to go into that today, but
It's a deep one.
What's that?
That's a deep.
It is a deep
one.
That's a deep wormhole, I guess, rabbit hole wormhole.
Yep.
I guess rabbit holes means you go into the ground, but like a wormhole, you go into space, right? Isn't that
Yes.
like, you transport.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's a powerful statement. I think it should create a lot of questions for somebody who reads it. Just the idea of talking about what securities and the current coin of the United States. So if I read that, I can say, you know what? There's the securities and the current coin. They're different. They're not the same thing. Okay, moving on. Congress has the power to establish post offices and post roads. Congress has a power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. So it's constitutionally protected for you to basically have rights to your work, your art.
Patents.
Patents, yeah. Oh, I couldn't find that word. To constitute tribunal inferior to the Supreme Court. So this is effectively, I think, what establishes federal district courts. So you'll see later when we'll talk about the Supreme Court more, but Congress can create tribunals that are of the Supreme Court, but they are inferior. So they're in the same web of the Supreme Court, but they can handle other things that don't quite get to the Supreme Court. So obviously Congress is involved in that. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. Donna, have you ever heard of the law of nations?
No,
No,
maybe. I don't know.
I hadn't heard. A year ago, I didn't know what it was. All right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna pull up what it looks like. I've got to find it first. Come on. There it is. Computers. All right. I'm gonna go to page like 104, I think. No, that was too far. Oh, it's the preliminaries. Yeah. So there's a ton of junk in the beginning. If you guys want this, it's a huge document. I can put it on Telegram for you. But it's so again, the Law of Nations was written in 1797. And just to go over the very beginning here, just to read the first few bullet points there. Nations or states are bodies politic, societies of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. So the law of nations. So nations are groups of people, groups of the living that congregate for a political purpose and to promote their mutual safety and advantage of being a group. All right, that's what being a nation is, you know, and the energy that I want to get across here is that we are a nation of people. We, the people, created the Constitution. So our rights as people and the fact that the Constitution referenced this document signifies that everything in here is used or referenced to us, the living. All the rights in the Constitution are there, and all the rights that are here in the Law of Nations. Such a society has her affairs and her interests. She deliberates and takes resolution in common, thus becoming a moral person who possesses an understanding and a will peculiar to herself and is susceptible of obligations and rights. So you're basically saying this group of people creates its own thing, its own society that has resolutions in commons, goes for the most moral. So the definition of the Law of Nations, to establish on a solid foundation the obligations and rights of nations, is the design of this work. The Law of Nations is the science which teaches the rights subsisting between nations or states and the obligations correspondent to those rights. So you have a nation of peoples that come together for a common reason and a common good. This document here signifies how we interact with each other. And when it talks about nations and it talks about states, the difference between the two is that the nations are simply the people living in common, living in peace, without a ruling or government body. Where a state is said ruling government body. So if you look at Colorado, Donna, you're a Colorado. I'm a Colorado. I'm of the people of Colorado. And we have created a state of Colorado. The state of Colorado is the government. It is something separate. It is its own entity. So reading this and understanding this is further knowledge and further information to recognize your rights as an individual, your rights as a people, and how the state and you are supposed to work together. So as you can see up here, it's 896 pages. I'm not going over this. So anyway, just wanted to share that. So here, it talks about piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. You know, piracies and felonies committed on the high seas are from state to state, nation to nation. You know, the waterways can only handle, they don't handle individuals. An individual will sink on the waterways. Only basically states, only armies, governments, things created by man. Congress has the power to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. Marque and reprisal, I didn't know what that was when I saw it. So the letter of marque is basically a license granted to a private person to fit out an armed ship to plunder the enemy.
Wow.
So effectively, it's saying that if somebody steals something from us, the government or whatever the heck, and they're out there on the waterways, the Congress can grant a private license to a private person to go out there and get our booty back. Interesting. Okay, here's something, you know, like next section here. Power has or Congress has the power to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. So when Congress raises money for the army, the budget is only for 2 years. Congress has the power to provide and maintain a navy. Congress has the power to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. Can you guys remind me to stop the video at 5 after 6? I'm going to stop it and then start a new one so that the files aren't too massive. I know this one's going to be a little bit longer. And I'm not doing an 8 o'clock meeting. This is the only one. All right, today's so yeah. All right. Navy, Congress has the power to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. Self-explanatory. All right. Congress has the power to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. That's an interesting clause. Within a couple of clauses from each other, there is an army and then there's a militia. Clearly, they're different. Not getting into the specifics of that, but it also says to execute laws of the Union. What are the laws of the Union? What is the Union? The way I see the Union is the group of
States.
republic states.
Yes.
The nation, it's the nations together form a union. The states together form the United States, form a government, or represent the governing structure over the land. All right, Congress has the power to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed to service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So way I look at it, and it's easy to look at, is that I think what we're trying to see here is that the National Guard is the militia, and the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines are armies. I mean, I guess, sorry, Navy isn't an army, but they're the organized government bodies. So the states themselves appoint the officers of their National Guard, their militia, but they can be used by the United States of America. All right. The Congress has the power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may be session or particular states, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, docks, yards, other info buildings, yada, yada. Okay. This clause gives the government 10 square miles, Washington, D.C., to be the seat of the government, to operate, and gives them the authority over any places that are purchased with the consent of state legislatures for forts, magazines, and basically defense of the union. So what's important to know here is that to exercise exclusive legislations in all cases whatsoever over the District of Columbia. So Congress is the state government-ish of the area of Washington, D.C. So those folks that are being detained right now for the J6 thing, they're under the Congress's own legislation for their land for that 10 square miles. And those are the laws and rules that they're operating by. There is no state legislature that can protect them or interfere with the proceedings. All right, Congress has the power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying out execution and foregoing powers, and all the powers vested by the Constitution and the government of the United States or in any department officer thereof. All right. Congress makes laws, and they can make laws required to carry out the execution of their powers and all other powers vested by the Constitution to the whole government structure. Okay, section 9, clause 1, I put this in here. There's another part of the Constitution that links back, so that's why that's there. All right, migration of importation of such persons as such as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808, so 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. So what they're saying here is that the states can manage the importation of persons. That's different than people. We're not saying importation of people.
Of such persons.
Right.
It's like, yeah, like they talked about it prior to, but what such persons? Yeah, and it's capital P.
Yeah, it's a proper noun.
Yeah.
But I think we can just speak on that for a minute. You know, there is a difference between the people and the persons.
Yeah.
The way I define it, you the living, you the soul, you the flesh and blood are the people and part of the nation of we the people. You have a person by being party to this government. In order to get the benefits and use and be party to the regulations and commerce that is created and managed by the government, you use your person. I mean, they mention persons later. I think I have underlined that. We'll talk about it again there. So, and here it says that if possible, Congress could tax a state by imposing an importation on your person. And it won't ever be more than $10. So every person that a state gets, they could be taxed up to $10. And one would have to imagine that's $10 in silver.
Yeah, $10 of what? Exactly.
Yeah. We didn't have fiat money in 1780s. Maybe we did. I don't know. All right. The privilege of writ of habeas corpus should not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion of public safety may require it. All right, writ of habeas corpus. I've heard that thrown around a lot. I've never had a great grasp of it. In the light text below, I put a little definition. The literal meaning of habeas corpus is you should have the body. That is, the judge or the court should and must have any person who is being detained brought forward so that the legality of the person's detention can be assessed. So this is effectively what a hearing is. You have a right to a hearing. If you're being detained, you got a right to know why and what for, and the judge or the court decides on whether being detained is the right decision. So that cannot be suspended. You cannot be imprisoned without a trial. You have to be able to be recognized and presented in a court. All right, no bill of attainder or ex post facto retroactively shall be passed. So bill of attainder is basically, I think, it is like, it has to do with treason. I know that. So you basically, I think what they're kind of saying is that you can't make something a law makes something treasonous and have it affect something that happened in the past. Like if I did something that might be considered treasonous, but it's not a real law of what I did, but then you pass a law saying what I did was treasonous, and then you punish me. All right. No capitation or other direct, so capitation, I think basically means a direct tax, shall be laid unless in proportion to the consensus of enumeration herein before direct be taken. Blah, blah. So you can't get taxed directly as a individual. There cannot be a tax on a living soul, on a people, or on an individual citizen. You can only have taxes on a group, and everybody be responsible for their part. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. So the government cannot tax anything that you export, the state exports. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. So basically it's an open port nation. So any goods that come in and out of ports, they can go to any state and they won't be charged duties because they usually go to a different state or what like that. They have the right to come into the country through any state. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law and a regular statement of account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. So we can't just take money out of the treasury. There has to be a bill that's passed. And whatever money comes in and out of the treasury, I guess there has to be a regular statement of account. But in consequence of, so if there's any appropriations made by law, so yeah, they pass the bill, that's how they get money out of the treasury. And a regular statement of account of receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Wonder what the definition of time to time is. Every 150 years.
Yeah.
See, that's a low frequency. It's a very low frequency. One
Yes.
every 150 years.
Yeah.
No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. So the king, count, duke of some other nation, other country, cannot be a member of Congress, cannot hold office. And the United States cannot create a nobility, cannot be granted or created by the United States. We don't create classes, we don't create counts, we don't create dukes, we don't create kings. We are all our own individual king. Okay, section 10. All right. So again, we're still in the first article. There's 10 sections to the first article. This is just outlining Congress. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin, a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. So here it's establishing limitations on what states can do, state governments. Again, no state, not union state. They cannot sign treaties with somebody else. They cannot create their own confederation, even though somebody did it once. They can't create marquee letters of reprisal. State cannot pay somebody, a private person, to go after any type of thing belonging to the state. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any imposts or duties, so basically import taxes, or on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state or imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States. And all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of Congress. So states can't really lay their own imports unless it has something to do with when they have to inspect things. So if they have to inspect produce that comes in, you can sprinkle a little tax on there so that someone can go out there and make sure you're not bringing in any kind of funky stuff. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording real quick so that it will create a second one. All right.